No, they didn't write it here, but are we going to Canada? Or
Yes.
Yes, again. Okay, wonderful. We discussed about places and the new working environment, and yeah, there's somebody I know from yesterday, Philippe Valentine.
Merhaba, nasılsınız?
Thank you, and you?
Çok iyiyim.
Wonderful. Now, this is the new environment. You know, a little of everything, but we're friends. So, I want to leave the stage to you, Philippe, for moderating the conversation. Please, we had a long talk yesterday, and now again enlighten us with the dynamics in Canada.
Sure. Well, I won't make most of the speech today, but I'm very happy to have with me Marie-paule Jeansonne, who's the CEO of FOREHAM Artificial Intelligence, which is the industrial cluster for AI in Quebec, in the province of Quebec. So, you know, I think I will give the floor right away to Marie-paule, who can introduce us to the local Quebec scene in AI, and with a focus on how the ecosystem was built around this collaborative environment. And of course, I'll jump in at the end to provide a bit more technical details on, you know, what incentives exist in the ecosystem and what the ecosystem has evolved into from a foreign direct investment perspective. But Marie-paule will put the table for us on the overall ecosystem in the province of Quebec. So Marie-paule, the floor is yours for now.
Hi, thank you so much. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yes,
very well.
Can you get the full screen?
I'm trying to do it and it doesn't seem to be working. Can you do it? No?
If you go on slideshow, you could be able to put it in.
Yeah, I was doing that already from the bottom, but in here I have something that's hiding it. Slideshow from the beginning. So maybe this will work. Okay, this way seems better. Works for you? You see it?
We only see a part of your screen.
Okay. I don't know how to fix that.
Do you want me to try, Marie-paule? I can try to share if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great if you don't mind. I don't know what's happening. I see it on my computer screen very fine, but somehow it's not showing up on your end. But let me start off because I know we don't have that much time, and I don't know if we have half an hour still, but I'll try to be quick so you can stick to your scheduling. But basically, I'm Marie-paule Jeansonne. I'm the CEO of Forum IA Québec, which is an organization that I'll be telling you a little bit about because it's something that makes us unique. And I don't think Philippe had time to talk to you about how in Quebec we chose to organize ourselves around AI, and the Forum is playing a key part in making sure that we can collaborate with each other in that way. So what's very unique
before you start, I guess this is the best example of how we can cooperate with each other. Actually, Philippe did the presentation, and now you can go on freely with that. Can you see that screen in front of you?
Yeah, I can see it. That's
okay, that's great. The floor is yours. Go for it. You're the last speaker, so you can have 5 extra minutes from me.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. So basically, you know, I'll tell you the way I'm going to organize my presentation to you today is tell you a bit about the Forum and how we chose to organize the AI ecosystem. And then I'll walk you through how we came to be such a well-known, world-renowned place to do AI. So throughout the years, and Philippe, you can perhaps go to the next page just so I can give a bit of an overview of how we organize. So what makes us unique is our ability to collaborate across actors and to have along the value chain from fundamental research and high-performing research labs and deep learning, all the way to applied research and working with large companies or small companies and adopting AI within their own business model, dealing with the adoption challenges that companies face when having to, you know, do the cultural changes that are needed to integrate a technology. We have consulting firms that are specialized in doing those types of things, all the way to helping startups with incubators and accelerators, and even financing actors, VCs that have built an expertise and understand the reality of those startups and companies that have to deal with AI as being at the core of their business model. So we've been very lucky to very quickly build this whole ecosystem of actors that are really present from the beginning to the end of the value chain. And now the role of the Forum, and then Philippe, you can go back to the previous slide, the first slide, is to really make sure that we gather all of those actors and work together to make AI a real lever of economic and social development for all of Quebec. And that's something that will be very important for me in my presentation today. We often hear about Montreal when we talk about AI, but we are also very, very strong in AI outside of Montreal, in Quebec City, among other places. And one of the very important missions that we have is to make sure that all of the Quebec's regions can also benefit from AI, not just Montreal in being this epicenter of business. We also want to make sure that through agriculture and more traditional sectors such as mining and forestry, that we can that those regions can also benefit from the productivity gains that come with AI. And so our vision in terms of the Forum is to make sure that we have everything in place to remain leaders in cutting edge research, because that's going to remain very important if we want to be able to have the latest up-to-date algorithms. We need to maintain a very strong core of fundamental research. But we also want to give tools for companies that are not in the AI sector to really be sensitized about the importance of being ready, of preparing their data correctly, of addressing the ethical challenges and the confidentiality challenges that come with managing large data sets and building algorithms. And we want to do so in encouraging them to also use and know more about our own AI producing companies, because we have a very, very interesting and deep pool of local companies that produce AI services and products. And up until now, we didn't know about a lot of them. And the Forum has done a study, and we've worked with some partners to identify how many there are. And we've been very strict in defining what is AI and what is not. And we have over almost 700 companies, and which is a lot for the population that Quebec has. And so we want to help those companies grow and thrive internationally and be able to export their products and also be used by our own local players. And then the last two bullet points on this page are very important to us as an ecosystem. We've always been, from the very beginning, focused on doing AI the right way and making sure that we are, from the very beginning, thinking about the ethical and social impacts of the algorithms and the AI products that we deploy and that we produce. And I'll tell you a bit more about this later when I present to you the ecosystem. We have players that are dedicated to that. But not only that, we also want to make sure that we can use AI proactively to address major societal challenges such as climate change and population aging. And Mila, one of the main actors in our ecosystem, recently revealed a product that allows people to see the level of water, what their environment would look like with climate change and rising water levels, what their neighborhoods would look like if we don't act quickly. So that's just one example of how we can use AI to make some major to address major social challenges. And now I'll tell you a bit more very quickly about the role that the Forum has. And Philippe, you can go forward 2 pages. Yeah, thank you. In terms of our role with the government also. So I've told you about all the other actors, but it's very important for us to also engage the government in ensuring that we are a thought partner for them when they think about developing policies that might affect the AI ecosystem in terms of immigration, in terms of managing data. We know that with GDPR in Europe, there's, we know the necessity to make our data protection even more robust, but we want to make sure that we can do so in a way that won't hinder the AI ecosystem. But more than that, we also want to be able to be their thought partner in helping them use AI within the government to be more efficient in dispensing social services. And so we want to work with them to help. For example, there's in healthcare, there's a lot of applications that can save a lot of money for the health system, but also can deliver much better patient results. So we want to work with them in helping them adopt AI within their purview. And so on this slide, you see a bit where we fit. We're the link between the ecosystem and other governmental agencies, and we're financed by the Ministry of Economy and Innovation of Quebec. And without further ado, I'll jump into what has made us who we are in terms of an ecosystem. I told you a little bit about the fact that the importance for us to remain strong in fundamental research. That's because that's how we emerge as an ecosystem. We really started off by, and I'd say this goes back decades, and we were very strong in operational research at the very beginning, and then with the leaders like Yoshua Benjo, which you probably know, who won the Turing Award. We've really built also an expertise in deep learning, and so we've built on this fundamental research to also create fundamental applied research centers. So centers where researchers can share their time working on very thought-provoking and cutting-edge research that will only see results in 10 years, but also spending part of their time helping companies in more urgent matters and projects that are more short-term. And so you see some of them here, and I'll go through a few of them with you in more detail later. And what has helped us to grow into what we've become is, the pillars of our ecosystem is, first of all, the major public investments that we've received from the federal government and the Quebec government to really give a strong indication that this is a priority for us as a country, as a province, to invest in AI and use it for our purposes. We have a strong talent pool, some incentives for AI companies that Philippe will tell you a little bit more about, and as I mentioned earlier, specialized support for AI startups. And I think that our position in being ethical and socially responsible is also very important and key in attracting the next generation of talent as well, I'll tell you. Philippe, you can go to the next one. I'll go very quickly about this. I think these are some of our leading talents, and what is unique about the Quebec ecosystem and has allowed us to attract these big companies that you see mentioned there is that our universities allow those researchers to continue working and teaching in the universities while also working part-time for these leading companies. And that has allowed us just a virtuous cycle of attracting talent, training the next generation of talent, and without losing our best brains to the leading companies. So we've really created this loop that has been very beneficial, and I think has allowed these researchers to remain really happy in what they're doing, because most often being able to continue to teach is so important. And working on research projects, long-term research projects. So I think that's a great equilibrium that we've been able to maintain. I'll tell you a bit more about three of our leading actors. Mila is the research center that Yoshua Benjo, who you see in the middle, has put together. With more than 600 researchers, it's the world's largest academic research center specialized in machine learning. And they have built a vast collaborative ecosystem with 80 plus industrial and community partners. You see some of them here, and so they're very focused on cutting edge machine learning projects, and they've also built a system where they embed students within some of these companies to work for a few months and helping them scale up their AI operations. Next, I'll tell you about Ivado, which has a larger champ d'application, a larger application. They do more than just deep learning. They are everything that includes digital intelligence. That's how they talk about it. It started off with big data, and they now cover operational research all the way to deep learning as well. But what they do is really promote the collaboration between scientists and industry. And they have 1,400 scientists, and they support a vast variety of research projects. And as you see, again, in close collaboration with international and academic industrial partners. And the next one is Lobster, which is an observatory whose goal is to research the ethical and societal impacts of AI on specific projects. So they work again together with industry to make sure that when they are deploying products, that they've thought about all of the impacts that could come their way, and that they're well equipped to address them at the very beginning of the project, and not find out all of these problems once it's already in market. So they have and again, it's quite impressive how they bring together 18 different universities and colleges in Quebec around these projects. And last but not least is the Institute of Intelligence and Data, which is based in Quebec City, which I told you about earlier. They're specialized in robotics, and there's a big spike in Quebec City around optics and photonics. And so there's a very, very interesting linkage there with the 4.0 industry, and they're specialized in data that comes from the real world, basically that has been captured by a camera, for example. They also have a big spike in insurance, because there's a lot of insurers in the Quebec City region, and they've had some very nice partnerships with some larger foreign companies like Bentley that have decided to establish themselves in Quebec City because of their expertise. And I mentioned it earlier, this would not be possible without a major support from the different government, the provincial and federal governments. And as you see, they've been very, very intelligent in supporting fundamental research, but also investing in, for example, capital funds for AI, you see that's the second line there, in VCs that are specialized in AI. So they're really, even in their investments, covering the whole range. And Scale AI, which would have, I think it would have been good to have a slide on Scale AI. We're short on time, but I encourage you to look them up. They're a super cluster that the federal government has created, and they are specialized in logistics and supply chain projects. So they really work specifically with companies, and they have funds to support projects to really help across Canada our companies being even more productive thanks to AI and logistics, supply chain, and transportation. Those types of topics. And on top of investments, of course, you need the talent, you need the brains, and we're very fortunate in Quebec to have leading universities. I'm sure you've heard of McGill before, but Université de Montréal is a leader in that regard as well. That's where Yoshua Benjo comes from, and Université Laval is a university in Quebec City, and so they are, and many others. This is not an exhaustive list. And on the bottom of the page, you see there's colleges even, which is before university, at 3-year training time. So we're really trying to bring that training even younger and younger, and even those colleges when they're that young, they also have research centers. These colleges that are specialized in specific industries, and they're building AI capabilities and working very closely with companies as well, even at the college level. So I think we've built a very interesting set of an ecosystem, and Philippe will now tell you a bit more about some of the programs that we're using to attract investments, and he will tell you the results, some of the results of those incentives. So without further ado, I'll let Philippe continue the presentation.
Thank you very much, Marie-paule. As mentioned earlier, I was a speaker yesterday, and I did touch base on the collaborative environments that we have in Montreal, in Quebec overall, but I think your overview was actually excellent to recap and to provide much more details on that front. So hopefully this is helpful for everybody to understand very much how deep the local scene is in AI in the province of Quebec and in Montreal. Basically, you know, of course, there's this talent pool, there's this collaborative environment that is very interesting for companies that are looking to set operations, let's say, in Canada. But specifically in Quebec, there are some incentives which further incentivize companies to invest here. So, of course, overall, the Greater Montreal region in the province of Quebec offer very operating costs which are much lower than in most other US states and Canadian provinces by an average of 28%. The same ratio applies to Montreal versus the 19 other largest metropolitan areas in North America. So basically, just based on currency and overall operating costs, you save about 28%. On the overall cost of operating a company here. But most interesting is the incentives that were developed and put into place years ago, which basically allow foreign companies to get further discounts when they set up operations in the province of Quebec. So the first one is a very generous refundable tax credit. So you should see that as a grant, as it's refunded at the end of the year, even if you pay no taxes in the province of Quebec. So basically, you get a 24% cash back on the salary of your software developers. There's no limit in time to tap into this tax credit. So I always give the example of Morgan Stanley or CGI, which have been getting the tax credit for 15, 20 years. And they still apply every year and still claim the e-business tax credit. On a closer front to Turkey, Etia, which is a software developer, is benefiting from the e-business tax credit for its operations in the province of Quebec. So they get that 24% cash back. They've been for 2 years now already. If you were to pay taxes in Canada, let's say you decide to have some revenues in the country and to pay taxes here, then you're eligible to an additional 6% for up to $25,000 per employee. So basically, you should see that as a massive incentive to have you set up a nearshoring office for your North American operations. If you want to tap into this amazing talent pool and research facilities that we have in Montreal, foreign companies are entitled to claiming a 14% cashback on their R&D spendings in the province of Quebec, which can be added to the non-refundable tax credit from the Canadian government. So basically, overall, when you combine the two tax credits, you can claim up to 26.5% more or less. There's a little calculation where you need to deduct the Quebec component, but I'll skip that for now. Keep in mind, you can get up to 26.5% more or less. Cash back on your R&D spendings if you're to pay taxes in Canada. If you don't pay taxes, you're still eligible to that 14% from the Quebec government. As well, there's the AI innovation program. The last call to projects was actually closed last Friday on the 15th of October. But you know, these are the kind of incentives which are put into place here and there. So basically, this AI innovation program aims at financing some projects from private companies, either startups, medium-sized companies, or even large-scale projects. So basically, there's some categories here, but you can finance a part of your projects in R&D, in AI. So basically, you can save some costs on those projects. This, of course, adds to all the other programs such as IRAP and MeTax, which basically cover some of your expenditures when you partner with universities to do some research. Just give me a second here. There you go. So what those elements all combined brought to Montreal, so the talent, the collaborative environment, and the incentives basically attracted a lot of companies to the Greater Montreal region and in the province of Quebec in general. So in the first phase, we saw a lot of Silicon Valley giants such as IBM, Facebook, Google, which basically set up R&D labs or acquired local companies to set up their operations in Quebec and in Montreal. So what happened is that they decided to partner with Mila, Ivado, and some of the researchers in Quebec, and kickstarted their R&D projects in the province. Of course, that brought the spotlight to Montreal and to Quebec. We had local leaders such as Element AI, which emerged, which for a short period of time had the largest VC funding round ever in AI. And then some other companies started to look into Montreal. So we started bringing companies which are not necessarily directly active in AI to Montreal. For example, Denso and Unity, which work respectively in the automotive and 3D animation industry, software development industries. So they basically decided to have a lab, an AI lab in Montreal to benefit from the expertise that we have in the region. More recently, we started seeing smaller companies setting up their footprint in Montreal. So we've attracted companies such as Behaviox and Boost AI in the region. And we've started seeing expansion phases of companies that have invested in the past. For example, Google, which massively increased its presence in Montreal in 2020. Again, this, of course, having large foreign companies is interesting, but we were also really active in attracting AI startups. You need to know that even if it was not mentioned in the presentation before, Montreal is one of the most dynamic AI startup ecosystems in the world, on par to Toronto and Vancouver. And basically, you know, what that creates is that you can have access to large companies, but which also combine their efforts with smaller companies through initiatives such as Forum IA. Basically, 6 of Canada's 10 most active venture capital funds are based in Quebec. There's been huge amounts of VC spent in the province, almost $7 billion, which has been spent over the past 5 years, more than 50% of that in tech. But what's really interesting is that the trend has been growing. And over the past 3 years, Montreal and the province of Quebec were basically leaders in the country per capita when it comes to VC spent and VC invested. So the trend is actually very positive, and it's a very good moment to invest in the region. You have examples here of companies that have secured rounds and that are active in AI. So to complete, I wanted to touch base a little bit on many verticals that are actually, the strengths of the Quebec ecosystem in AI. So obviously, everything related to management tools has been very proactive. As Marie-paule mentioned, the fintech and insurtech companies, especially in Quebec City, have been on the rise for quite a while. And we're seeing more and more AI applied to health and life sciences. This has been a focus, including at McGill University and the Université de Montréal, which have been very proactive in connecting researchers and private companies. Obviously, there are tax credits, which are refundable, which apply to industrial and manufacturing companies. So a lot of companies or end users of AI get a benefit to using that. So a lot of companies have decided to develop as well the solutions in-house. And obviously, we cannot skip the creative industries in Montreal, the digital creative industries in the game development, and visual effects are really, really strong. So a lot of those companies have invested in the region. I know our time is pretty much up for 2 minutes. So I'll stop sharing my screen so you can see our faces. I hope the presentation was interesting and that Marie-paule's presentation and the content that she introduced you to was interesting. I learned myself a lot of stuff because, the ecosystem is really deep here. So every time I hear about it, I learn new things. So I wanted to thank you, Marie-paule, for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, actually, I also, well, Marie-paule, if you're saying something, please open your microphone. Your microphone, please, Marie-paule.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we couldn't hear what you were saying.
I just wanted to say thank you, and it was a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Actually, today was somehow some kind of international day, and in the morning we listened to Turkish startups, the young ones, and then we listened to women in as a strong dynamic in developing AI and other things. And then we had the investor panel, and last but not least, we had you as a new opportunity for our startups and everything else. So everything is becoming a global ecosystem, And I am really impressed with the resources and your vision and everything else, incentives as a system that will help startups. So I hope our audience is very much interested in that. And with you, we came to the end of the 4th day of the Artificial Intelligence Week, Trai week here in Turkey. So I want to thank you, and after you, I'll make the closing speech in Turkish. So thank you very much. We're really impressed.
Very well, thanks to you. Maybe for everyone, don't hesitate to add us on LinkedIn. It's a very common way of maintaining contacts in North America. So feel free to add us on LinkedIn to send us a message if you want to further explore the opportunities to connect. And teşekkür ederim. İyi günler.
And we thank you too. Okay.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye.